As much as Marvel has had these big productions that are all so high stakes, fate of the world, everything's going to go awful if we don't win the day, sometimes it's nice to have a show like this where the stakes are small. They're kind of focused in on just trying to get these artifacts back, and they're saving the timeline. Fantastic. What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Eyes of Wakanda, which I had not really heard anything about. So first of all, before I get into the whole review, if you haven't heard about this and you want to check it out for yourself, it's a 4-episode series on Disney+, about 30 minutes each, so not too long. And it follows these war dogs that are apparently spies or agents from Wakanda that are sent around the world to go retrieve artifacts that have been taken by these other cultures, civilizations throughout time. Each episode is its own separate story, which I did really enjoy, and honestly, the animation looks good, the voice acting is really good. There's a lot about this that was enjoyable. Some of it was done before. As far as the stories, I've definitely seen a lot of these storylines and narratives done several times in the past, but they were all done well. There's good emotion behind it too, so I would highly recommend it. If you just want something simple to put on, it's a series that I think entertains well. And it's fun to see all these different time periods as well. You have ancient Egypt times, you've got the attack on Troy, you've got sort of ancient China, and then you have, I don't remember what the time period is, but it's a time whenever the French were going around trying to conquer Africa, I think. I'm not a history buff, so I don't really remember a lot of that. So it's very interesting to see all these different time settings, and I think they do a good job of utilizing that and making each episode feel so different and compact because of it. So like I said, I do recommend it. For me, the first 3 episodes were my favorite. The 4th one was still good, but definitely had some things that dragged it down. But with all that being said, now we can get into a bit of spoilers. So if you don't want to hear about what actually happens, I'm not going to summarize everything, but I will start talking about some of the more detailed things. So if you want to watch it for yourself, go do that. Come back, watch the rest of this later. But getting into the first episode, Into the Lion's Den, this one was very much a setup episode. A disgraced Dora Milaje going out, getting a chance to take down this guy who left Wakanda and took a bunch of artifacts. Got all these people to work for him as well and basically became a god in their eyes. It was a decently fun episode, good action as well. I will say there was something kind of funny to me that I don't remember his name now, but it was the Lion King. I see what they did. But as he's putting on all of the Wakandan artifacts that's going to power him up, he's doing it so slowly and methodically, and it's kind of funny because she's out there just killing all of his top guards, and he's just taking his time, no rush whatsoever. And I understand why he's trying to set up for he's going to talk to her and convince her to work for him, but you still lost all of your top guards because she was killing them. If you'd just gone out there a little sooner to stop her from fighting, you would still have some guards left at the end of all of this, which obviously he doesn't make it out of the fight anyway. But if you did manage to convince her to work for you and to join you, you now have less protection because she took out your head guardsman. So something about that was kind of silly. But learning about the war dogs, I don't know if this is something that's been discussed before when it comes to Wakandan lore, but it's an interesting story to delve into, and I'm glad we got a few different stories on top of her getting introduced to it and deciding to become, which we find out later she becomes the director of the war dogs. But there really wasn't much else to this. Like I said, the animation is really nice, and a lot of these fight scenes do feel very fluid. But as far as the story, this was probably the most bare bones, but I understand why. It was setting up for what we're going to get in the future episodes by kind of showing us what happened with this one guy who was a war dog, decided to leave because he saw the outside world, and then Nani deciding she wanted to join the war dogs and become one herself. So it was a nice little story. And then we get into episode 2, Legends and Lies, and this is one of those stories, like I was saying earlier, I've definitely seen this before. You've got a guy fighting this war with all these other people who truly believe in the cause. He has his own mission. He has his own thing. He's trying to find this artifact that Helen of Troy was wearing. And because he and Achilles are basically brothers in this war, you know there's going to be a point where Achilles sees the betrayal, he gets hurt by it, they turn on each other, and they have to fight at the end. So it's not anything that I haven't seen before. It was definitely predictable, but I thought they handled it well. The voice acting for both of them really drew me in, made me feel what they were feeling. I did feel like the one guy that was in the Myrmidon's camp that decided to suddenly call him out, I think Memdon was his name, but decided to call him a traitor sort of out of nowhere and just be like, he's the reason why we keep losing these battles. It did feel very sudden, but it sets up for that moment whenever Achilles sees him letting Helen and Priam, is that his name? But Memdon letting them go is that moment where Achilles was like, oh, he was right. You are a traitor. And I do like how Achilles, even though he sees this, he does listen to him. He does hear him out. But because he's more concerned about this artifact, and then of course he sees how powerful the artifact is, he still feels betrayed by it. He still feels betrayed that he wasn't really fighting in this war with them. He wasn't really on their side trying to help them win. He was more focused on his own mission, and that still hurts. And I'm glad that that's where they took it, because so many times we see this type of story end up being oh, you were with them the entire time, even though he's been helping them out throughout the entire war. And Achilles even points that out when the guy accuses him. So I'm glad it wasn't just an instant flip of the switch, like, no, he was right. It's more so he realized he had his own motives. And that still hurt. That still felt like a betrayal, which is why he turned on him. And then, of course, you have him cutting Achilles' heel because, haha, funny. I'm pretty sure that is where that comes from, though. Like, he did die because somebody cut him on the heel. Could be wrong about that. But I will also say it's a little weird to see, again, I think it's Memnon. I could be entirely wrong about this, and I apologize if I am. Names are something I'm not good at, and if you've watched my channel before, you know this. But it did feel weird that as Achilles pulls the shard of his sword out of the pillar and goes to stab him, instead of just knocking it away and breaking his arm or something like that, he decides to turn it and stab him in the gut. Like, I know Achilles is supposed to die. I don't know if he died at the attack on Troy or not, but it still feels weird. Like, this is a guy that you are friends with and you don't want to hurt him, and yet in that moment you made the decision to turn it and stab him. And maybe he saw it as the only way to finish the mission is to make sure he died. But it still did feel a little weird and sudden for him to suddenly just decide, all right, well, I guess I have to kill you to complete my mission. But like I said, this is a story that's been done, but the acting behind it is what drew me in. It's what made me feel for this story, even though I've seen it done before. And then we move on to episode 3, Lost and Found, and this was probably the most lighthearted of them all. Basha returning with this statue, which means a lot to the village that he came from, but it has a vibranium tongue inside, so he had to bring that back. And then you've got the Iron Fist, which it was nice to have a version of the Iron Fist that I didn't despise, but you've got her showing up to bring the dragon back to the village because it means a lot to them. And a lot of this is predictable. They're asking him why he went radio silent for, I think they said 3 weeks. We see him, I think he got up out of bed next to a woman. It's not too difficult for us to piece together what happened. And then on top of that, when she's fighting all these people, we do hear it's a woman's voice, even though they kept saying a man. I don't really understand why they assumed it was a man. Because in most things, I would just say, okay, well, they're trying to be like, oh, it's so strong, it must have been a man. But these are Wakandans. The Dora Milaje are some of the strongest warriors in their culture, so it just felt weird that they would still be like, oh, it's got to be a man, especially when you hear the voice clearly sounds feminine. But it's not hard to piece together that the woman that he was with probably is the same woman that's here, because it would just make so much more sense to the story. I kind of assumed she was trying to find him, so finding out she was going for the statue was a little different, but I mean, it still made a lot of sense. The fight scene between them was, once again, very well done. It was kind of funny. You would think he would know about a lot of these artifacts, and yet it felt like he didn't really know what he was doing with most of them. To be fair, they did show Basha as being a goof off, so it kind of makes sense that maybe he wouldn't know a lot about this stuff because he didn't take it very seriously. But it was just funny to see her fighting against him as he's grabbing all these artifacts that are super powerful, and he's still just really struggling because he doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing in there. But the way it all gets wrapped up, it was kind of funny to see her pulling the tongue out of the statue like there's no problem. But then the excuse they come up with to give, I don't remember if he was like the general, commander, I don't remember what his title was, but the story they come up with that Ebo came up with this entire training exercise felt way too simplistic and kind of stupid. I know it's probably not meant to be taken that seriously. It felt much more like a sitcom ending. But to me, it didn't really match the rest of the episode because it felt like mostly it was kind of serious. It was just Basha was goofy. But then we get to that scene and it feels like everybody's kind of goofy. So I don't know. It was just a little bit of a tone shift that I wasn't a big fan of, but it was fine. Like I said, that episode, it was fun. I had a good time with it. But then we get to the last episode, The Last Panther. And like I said in the intro, I kind of preferred these smaller, more contained stories where it's just these Wakandan people trying to get back these artifacts. Some of them are a bit more serious. Some of them have some more stakes to them. Like you think about the lion at the beginning. His story definitely was a little bit more intense because of what he was trying to do, trying to create an empire that he could rule over. So that one was a little bit bigger. Second one was a little bit more contained. It's a part of a story that exists in our world, the attack on Troy. and this one Wakandan agent who's sneaking in to retrieve an artifact, and it comes down to a battle between friends. And then, of course, the third one, like I said, kind of felt like a sitcom at the end. But then this one, it felt kind of normal. A prince who he wants to be recognized, he wants to make his mark on history. And I understand they made it big so that way he could save the day, but they also made it a story where nobody can know what he did because it involves time travel in the future. So I understand that narrative for him, but like I said, I was preferring the smaller scale stories, not this end of the timeline type of narrative. So it may be more of a personal preference for me. I don't know if maybe other people really enjoyed that tie-in. Again, I think the way the narrative flowed in the episode made a lot of sense. For, I think it was Tafari was the prince's name, for his story to have such an epic feeling to it, but then in the end, nobody knows. Nobody finds out what he did. I understand that, but I was really enjoying just these smaller scale, very personable stories. Like even when he's talking to, I think it was Kuda, when he's talking to him in the car or whatever, whatever their vehicle was that they were driving, when he's having that conversation with him and Kuda's talking about he's got his family at home, he's got a duty to them, duty to Wakanda. They need to be focused on the mission because it's what's best for everybody. And that's why he doesn't take unnecessary risks, because not only does he have this duty to Wakanda to try to complete the mission, but also he's got a family to worry about. And if he puts himself in danger and dies, they don't have him anymore. And it was a very nice moment. And I will say I was kind of surprised that he wasn't dead at the end, because he gets crushed by the thing. The glove powers off, which I assumed was his life force gone, so he wasn't able to power it anymore. And so that after Tafari puts the axe back in the clock and then he goes to help lift the beam off of him, and he's just like, oh, I'm okay. I'm thinking, wow, all right, well, wasn't expecting that. Definitely feels like kind of a little bit of a BS happy ending. But that's what I mean, though, is that story with them I found much more intriguing than this end of the timeline, monsters from another world attack and everybody's dying. That to me just feels so much different, so much more out of place in this season compared to all the other stories that we had. So that was really the only issue I had with this. Everything else was fine, although I did think the fight scene between Kuda and Tafari and, I don't remember her name, but the last Black Panther, their fight to me didn't make any sense, because they fight for, I don't know, 2 minutes maybe? And then finally she goes, wait a minute, I'm one of you. Could you not have said that to begin with? Could you not have just said, hey, I'm from the future, here's what we need to do? Why'd you have to silently come up like a terrifying villain, rip open the thing to find the axe you're searching for? Because the thing is, even if you did manage to get the axe and put it back where it was supposed to be, they're still going to go back after it then. You had to be the one to tell them, hey, this is what's going on, or else they were just going to head back into the city and try to get it back. So it just feels weird that she took so much time to finally go, all right, fine. Let me tell you what's going on. Why? Why waste that time? You were on a ticking clock already, apparently, because you weren't able to stay in the past for that long. And also, I will say there was something very reminiscent of Days of Future Past, where they're all fighting in the future, they're all dying slowly, but it doesn't matter because Tafari and Kuda are managing to get the axe back, so that future doesn't even happen. So why are we wasting time on showing these scenes where they're fighting off the giant alien bugs? So yeah, that was the weakest one for me, but it was still fairly entertaining. I still liked the voice acting in it. I still liked the animation in it. There's a lot about it that still worked. It was just the story was the weakest out of the 4. But final thoughts, overall I had a good time. If they did a second season of this, I'd watch it because I had a good time with this. And I enjoy these stories that they're telling. It would be kind of interesting to see how many other Wakandan artifacts were left throughout history, how many other big historical moments maybe were infiltrated by Wakandan warriors who were looking for an artifact. It's a good concept, and it really does lend itself to telling a few different stories throughout history. So I do hope we maybe get a little bit more of this. And unlike What If, I hope they stick to what worked this season. Because I do worry if they do get more, they'll start to try to grow it, they'll try to expand it, they'll make it bigger. And we don't need all of that. We just need these fun, interesting little stories that keep people entertained. But those were all of my thoughts, so cue the outro. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that review. I hope you enjoyed it. First and foremost, please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. I love having discussions with people, so whatever your thoughts were, whether you agree or disagree with me, please leave them down below. Obviously, no spoilers. Also, if you did find yourself enjoying this review and you want to see more, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I also have a gaming channel as well as a channel where I talk about soccer, so if you want to give those a follow as well, that would be much appreciated. And lastly, if you want to help me improve upon the quality of these channels, I do have a Patreon. All of this is in the description below. With all that being said, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to y'all later. Peace out.